Hey, it looks like we're streaming and live now,
Okay. All right.
and a
Push
whole
the
bunch of people
button.
are, yeah, and a whole bunch of people are zooming in right now, so that's really good.
That's right.
Well, hello everybody, welcome, welcome. It's great to see you all. Welcome to SongNet. We're still online, we're still virtual. However, I have been in touch with our friends at the homestead, and we should be there sometime soon. We'll see what happens. But meanwhile, we do have some Zoom guests. We're thinking about maybe even just continuing this as it goes the way that it is because we have so much participation from all over the world now, which is very cool. Ravi is here from New Zealand, and we
Oh,
also have uh, uh, John Pfeiffer here from the East Coast. And so as things go on, we got more and more people. Um, we have people
Jimmy,
that yes.
LA Open Mic, our little private chat, they want to know the link. Can I post it there for tonight?
Um, what do you think, Steve?
Yeah. You mean
Open Mic LA.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Vicky.
yeah,
Vicky.
sure?
Okay.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
Well, you
I,
mean the YouTube link, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no.
No,
The Zoom link.
Oh.
the Zoom
Oh.
link.
Okay.
You can send actually hit up the
I
individual.
already did it. Sorry.
Oh well,
It's all right.
yeah,
It's
because
no
we,
big
we
deal.
change
Yeah.
our link every time
Those,
anyway.
those are friends, so
Yeah,
if they
They're
join
fine.
us, I'm
No,
sure it's
as
fine.
long as we know who they are, that's all.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so we'll be watching for him here then, because now I'm officially the host, so I've got to let people in. And we've got a lot of people just suddenly hitting me because it's 7 o'clock. Anyway, so we've had a whole lot of things happen over the past year. Past, yeah, actually more than past year now. And we haven't actually met for about a year in person. So it's really good to see all of you. Today we've got a special guest. We always have special guests, but Chris is somebody that I've worked with when I was kind of not really completely. Well, actually, I wasn't a bona fide teacher. I had my credential and everything, So I was teaching at MI, and that was a whole lot of fun. I got in through our very very dear late friend Kenny, and Kenny was one of the guys that well he was one that founded what Kiss was all about and everything else. And then when he passed, everything changed in the music business program, unfortunately. But I was still able to help out with a few things until they completely basically booted us all out because anybody who didn't have the right credential essentially was kind of lost in that whole situation there. Right, Chris? It was kind of weird.
I'm still there.
Yeah, you're still there because you have the right credentials.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
nobody. They asked me 5 years ago if I graduated from college. I was like, nobody ever asked me that in the music business.
when I was asked, they asked me, did I graduate out of a music program, and I said no, and that's why I got the boot. But Bobby Borg is still there, I think, right? So yeah, and Bobby's a very successful uh, author, and he was the one that got me into that for a while. But anyway, we've got a whole lot of things happening. Everybody wants to know about how to generate some revenue. I've been doing some different workshop seminars. Some of you have actually asked a little bit about help and things like that. John Piper, I threw him a little list of things to get started on. So there's opportunities for everybody. And I'm just going to turn it over to Chris right now and let her talk about what she does. And then she'll be fielding some questions because I know a lot of you or John anyway, so far, is from the East Coast, and I know it's late over there. What time is it over there, John?
Sorry, it's just after 10.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm in
John.
Orlando,
10,
everybody.
10 F,
If
10
Right.
you want
Yeah,
to know
John
specific,
Cutler.
and Jimmy was a little momentarily confused. I go by my stage name normally, John Corbell, and
Yes.
that's how he knows me. And this is my work computer, so that's my daytime name.
Great. Yeah. Well, thanks, John. It's always great to have you.
But yeah, it's you. I was thinking, as you mentioned, that it's been over a year, and it's been over a year since I was out to LA. So dying to get out. I have a plan to come out for a weekend in June, but it'll just be a quick visit.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks again. So I'm going to mute everybody except Chris. So, Chris, take it away.
Okay. So I've been in this business for well over 20 years. I'm originally from the East Coast. I've been working. I was a fan, crazy fan, and I would drag people out to shows with me because that's what I did. And then that band broke up into three, and by the time I was 24, I was managing. And again, this was before the internet. So I learned the hard way. I learned all this stuff the hard way. When I moved out to LA in early 90s, I moved out to be in the music business and have a day job. Basically, is what I was doing. And I started just doing temp work. There are temp jobs, temp agencies just for music business. And so I started and worked at a whole bunch of companies. And I met somebody that did PR. Her name was Deb Rosner, and she actually founded Poison. And so back then, that was a big deal. And so she taught me how to do PR here, because it's different coasts concentrate on different kind of things. And so I helped her out, or we call that interning now, right? I just helped her out twice a week, and I learned how to do the PR. And then when she got a big job offer from a record company, I took what we called her baby bands, the ones I was working with, the ones that weren't signed yet. And so then I started doing PR for them, and little by little I started managing them. And so I've been working with all kinds of bands all these years, and I've been in a lot of different markets. I've worked with every kind of music you can imagine except for opera. So if somebody's here doing opera, I'm sorry, I haven't done opera. I pretty much have done everything else, I met my artist, Harold Payne, who's a platinum songwriter who, when it's not COVID, does 250 dates a year. And he's now starting to work. He actually started working a lot more since January, doing a lot of corporate work because he does custom songs for people and things like that. And he did his first outdoor gig in Orange County last Thursday. So, so I do everything for Harold, you name it, I do it. And then I have a Brazilian artist I work with. I have a guy who's originally from London, but's been out in LA for a really long time. And right before COVID, I started working with a blues artist. His name is, his band name is Electric Soul Parade, basically. And we booked him a gig, a tour of colleges, right before COVID started, and it all disappeared, So I'm still in touch with him. He's actually doing a lot of production work for some songwriters because he's connected with other musicians and stuff like that. And so I only work with 4 artists at a time because I do everything. And so you got to have your money maker. Harold's my money maker, right? And everybody else is at different levels for me. And and so Harold's been through a lot of different things. I've been doing a lot of different markets. I feel like my job is that when I'm talking to musicians, it's for us to sit down and figure out what your skills are so we can turn it into a job. That's my goal when I sit down with people, because most of you have skills that you don't realize how well you do them, that you could actually develop into a job. And this pandemic has developed a lot of people into doing those jobs. And so it's been very interesting to me that people have been offshooting what their interests are and then starting a blog or something like that, and then growing their audience online, and kind of like jumping out and doing that. So it's kind of like my mission in life, right? Is to sit down and to be your DIY connection. And so I do something called Music Biz Mentors, where I used to do physical, events like Jimmy did, basically, and bring people in to talk to you about different marketing and promotion and management, all kinds of stuff, right? So we started doing things on Zoom, and actually I will announce probably by the end of the week, I'm doing my first Zoom with Dan Campbell, and he's the end of the month on April 29th. He's calling it Old School Rules Meet the New School Tools. And he is the guy who wrote the networking book for musicians. And so I'm going to try to do 2 a month. And then every week since November, I've been doing a Fridays Facts with the DIY Musicians Facebook Live, where I do a blog on my website, and then I do the Facebook Lives for people. So that's my thing. That's basically what I'm doing with my stuff. So that's how I got started.
Okay, so let's go and start with the obvious. First of all, when you talk to people about generating revenue, what's the first thing you ask, and how do you get going with that?
Well, the first thing we do is look at, what kind of skills they have. Whether if you're a guitar player, would you do that well? Or if you're a songwriter, what kind of songs do you write? And then I sit down and we actually look. I say, what are your songs saying? A lot of the musicians today are not thinking that way. But sometimes if you sit down, it follows a theme. You maybe sing songs about heartbreak, or maybe you're singing songs that are encouraging people to move forward through something, or maybe, and you know what? Maybe you're just performing to make people dance, and that's okay too, And so it's about, for me, what are you trying to say to the world with your songs? Because then we can hook into other kinds of things where there are audiences that you haven't thought of. Like, anybody here play metal? Sometimes I get people who are like, I play metal. There's nowhere for me to play, And I go, well, first of all, let's look on Google. Google knows all. And we just have to word it right. Where do you live? I live in San Francisco. Okay, let's go. Music venues for metal, live, San Francisco area. And always things come up. Or let's look at the best DIY artists on the West Coast that do metal. And there's an article somewhere. And then you can follow the people that are on the rise. So not necessarily doing the same things that they do, but maybe follow the kinds of venues that they're doing, and maybe even contact them to see if you can open up for them, that kind of stuff. And to see where their audience is and what they're doing. What are they doing that's cool that you haven't thought of yet? And so I'm all about looking at what I call lifestyle markets, anything that's outside the box that people do for their life, right? So I said to somebody the other day, I said, so you have a metal band? Yeah. I said, who would listen to loud music? And he's like, I don't know what you mean. I said, where would you play where people would want to hear loud music? I go, Harley Davidson shows, maybe classic car shows, NASCAR. I always started. And what else do you have? Tattoos, maybe tattoo convention, And so it goes back to who you are and who are your people, right? Every time I say target market, musicians' eyes roll back into their head and they look at me like I'm out of my mind, right? So my question is, who do you want to listen to your music? Before we talking about age, where do they listen to music? Do they go to the park? Do they, where do they have to go to listen to music? And bigger crowds, not so much where people are going. Like, I'm not dragging people into a venue to buy a ticket. I'm not going to do that unless I know I can bring 100 people through the door, right? I'm going to look outside, concerts in the park, the tattoo convention. If you do pop, rock music, that kind of stuff, or even punk music or something like that, who listens to that? It's surfboarders and skateboarders, and they all have events that are going on, right? And you can play that too. And when I had a band that walked in one day because we were going to interview them in class, and they all had skateboards underneath their arm. And I said, no, and that students were asking them questions. Nobody asked about the skateboards. And I go, okay, I'll ask the hard questions now. Number one, do you all skateboard? They're like, yeah. And I go, does anybody compete? And they're like, oh yeah, our drummer competes. I said, have you ever played at one of those competitions? And they were like, well, no, there's no music. I said, not yet. I said, everybody knows you already. They know you're in a band. So why can't you play 20 minutes before they put all the awards? So they went, they did it, pushed through, and they did it, and they played. And I said, how'd it go? We sold so much merch and stuff. They loved us. And so the next time they go or asked, they wrote one skateboard song, right? About skateboarding. And when they did, it went like wildfire, and every single competition wanted them to come. They all did their regular stuff. They only did one song. And by the year's end, they had skateboards with their names on it. They had skateboard gear. They were in advertising for skateboard, all that kind of stuff. So you need to look outside yourself and not be stuck in, I'm going to play Hotel Cafe today and I have to bring 30 people. And if I don't get paid. Why? I always say that's a game, but it's a real game. They need 30 people to buy a beer. You have to understand their business. And so if you can't bring 30 people, you shouldn't be playing there yet. So you need to play everywhere else that you can think of to gather people up so that you have 30 people come so you can play the game. I am all about not playing the game until you can win. It's really simple. I don't care what state you're from. They're always going to ask you, what is your draw? And if you can't draw, if you're playing show after show after show, and the same 10 people are coming, you are doing something wrong, right? You're playing the wrong places. You're not advertising. You're not networking with like bands. I had a girl in one of my classes and I said, where are you today? And she said, I'm in my country. And I said, and where is your country? She says, Bangladesh. And I was like, oh, shoot. She was like, and she does EDM music. And I was like, oh, okay. So I said, well, what kind of EDM bands do you listen to right now? Up and coming bands? She goes, none really. And I'm like, what? I said, no. I mean, if this is, I don't care what kind of music you're doing. You need to see new bands on the rise in your genre of music. And then you can follow to see what they're doing. What kind of merch are they selling? Are they doing virtual events? How are they getting people to their shows? So, and again, you may not do exactly what they say, what they're doing, but it will drum up an idea for you. And I think that is the magic for me. The other thing for me is there's two things you need. You want to play out live? You need a live video. Number one, it's your calling card. Used to be send a song, send a CD, send your Facebook and Instagram to us. And now it's like, just send me the video. They're only going to look at a minute anyway. And they'll know if they like you and you're ready to go. And then they may ask you, how do you advertise your shows? What social media do you use? That kind of stuff. What are your draws? Stuff like that. But you got to get in and get them to like you first. I never talk money until I know they like us. They go, what do you charge? I'm like, well, do you like it? Let me find out. Are we in the ballpark for you? And then how long do we play? You need to play for an hour if you want to make money. If you cannot, I talked to a pop band the other day and they was like, what, an hour? And I'm like, yeah. They go, we have 8 songs and we can do them in 20 minutes. So how many songs do I have to do for an hour? I said, 20? I don't know. You need to jam up your songs and do some cover songs and maybe talk a little bit between your songs. And I said, I will not pitch you unless I know you can do a 1-hour show. You can't tell me, oh yeah, I can get it together in a couple of months. I'm like, I need to see it. I need to see you in front of people and do it before I will pitch it. Because when I pitch it, I put my name on it. So I will not do it. That's not me. And that's why I only work with anybody in Los Angeles, because I have to see you play. If I'm pitching you live, I know what you can do to videos. I've done it. Make it sound better, make the crowd applause go higher. I've done it. So I have to be in the room and watch you. I know what you're doing up on stage, because I've been watching a lot of bands in my lifetime. I know when you're not doing your job, right? The show is everything. And even if you do get in a door somewhere, you have to be good. every single time, even if there's only 10 people in the room. Because if those 10 people tell their 10 friends, the next time there's 20 people in the room. So this is all about you, who you are, and what are you all about. There's a girl, she's a real go-getter. Anybody know Arya Silver? She is a go-getter. I met her like 2 or 3 years ago at the Folk Alliance. And man, she's a singer-songwriter. Man, she's a go-getter. She was like, if I want to do this, what do I need to do? I go, you need to do this, 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 and this. She goes, okay. She does this, 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 and this, and she gets it every single time. Like she just goes after it, you know? And I've been watching her. And so what she's been doing is, and now I talk to her once in a while, and I'm going to try to bring her on my show too, to talk about like how she reinvented herself during COVID. So she knows what's going on. And, you know, she just said, oh, well, what am I going to do? So she kind of jumped into all different areas. She has a love of reading, right? And so she started a show at Thursdays at 2:00 on Facebook Live, and she brings another musician on with her, and they talk about different books and how they embrace them, whether it influenced them different ways and stuff like that, back and forth. And then they do a song swap. So every time she does it, the new person, she's getting the audience from the new person, and the new person is getting an audience from her. And every week she does it. But she went after something that meant really something to her, you know, something that she really wanted to do. And then she told me, she goes, you know, I didn't tell anybody this, but, you know, I always taught yoga. So now I'm teaching yoga on the side. And I said, well, that's great. I said, but can't you take some of your music and use that as part of the yoga that you're doing? And she was like, yeah, of course. Am I doing that? No, I'm not doing that. And I said, now let me connect you up with Judy Younger, which I know Jimmy knows Judy. Judy she's a singer-songwriter, and her production on her songs are excellent, right? And so she pulled the words off of her songs, and she went into the meditation market. And there is a whole market of meditation, different websites. Now she's online doing that stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I told her, you could do that. Why can't you do that? You know how big the yoga field is, basically, and people using music? She was like, shoot, I never thought about that. So sometimes you need to talk to somebody because you don't see it. You're so close to it that you don't see the other opportunities. So whether it's me, another musician, somebody else, Jimmy, somebody like that says, did you ever think of this? You know, your songs have this bent to me. I think that you could do that. You know, many of you probably know about house concerts, right? Of course, they have folded, but some of the house concerts are now virtual now. Did you even realize that? Probably not. You know, they were waiting too. And now those house concerts are learning how to get techie. So there's all kinds of things. Whatever you were doing before can get even better now. But you're going to have to learn some of the technology that's going on. Some of you, I don't know, some of you may know Dan Navarro. And he goes to the Folk Alliance a lot. And it's on YouTube. He did 3 different sessions about what he did to go virtual. And they are excellent. He was really honest with you when he started. He goes, I used my phone and let me show you. He goes, let me show you the lamp I used. A lamp that was turned sideways so he could get some light, right? He said, I did my first 20 like this. This is what I did. And then I got a little microphone, and then I got a little better camera, and now I have a ring light, you know, that kind of stuff. And then he got really techie, you know, interfaces and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But he's doing it 3 times a week now. So musicians who are doing successful will always get the gig first and then share what they're doing with you. So you should be in line with other musicians who are doing the same thing. You know, introduce yourself, you know, just hit them on Facebook or something like that. You do the same thing as me. I know you're in Portland and I'm in LA. maybe we can swap ideas. Maybe we can do a virtual together. We can, whatever. That's kind of how we kind of run after those things. So I get excited about that. I like, again, working with new musicians or musicians who are stuck. And most people who come to me, they finish their first EP and go, now what do I do? And I'm like, did you think about that before? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. So there's a guy online. His name's Damian Keys. I don't know if anybody knows who he is. He's a big marketing guy. And he has a couple videos, 30 days on how to put out your first music releases. And then he has another one. I love this one. He goes, 30 days to release your music if you have no fans. Okay. So I'm like, I like this guy. He's in London, but man, I just, I like to just message him saying, God, I'm telling everybody about you because I love that video, where he says, okay, second day you do this, third day you do this. And then if you've already put it out, then okay, you should be doing a virtual once a week. So let's look at your calendar and put it on there. There's so much great information that you can find online. Just Google it. It will help you, and also and one of the other bigger things is getting to know the people that are in your field that are doing well and that you might want to follow. To me, that's what it's all about. When we start talking about this and you want to perform, can you perform for an hour? What kind of music are you doing? Who do you want to listen to you? Where would you go to listen to your music? Where would you want to go? Where would you want to see it? And take out clubs. No clubs. You can always play at a club. I don't want to talk about clubs because you gotta draw on a club, right? I had somebody the other day who said, oh, well, I want to open up for big musicians. And I said, you realize you don't get paid much for that. You get that, right? You might be able to get the gig, but they're not paying you hardly any money to do that stuff. So you have to follow and pay for everything. When somebody says they're doing a promotional tour, it means they're not being paid. It means somebody else is paying for it, but they're not getting paid. So if you get the opportunity to open for somebody big, I'll tell you my Greek story. I went to see, I went to the Greek one day with a couple of my friends, and there was a band up there. They were a band opening up, and I thought they were doing sound check because they were like, can I have more monitor? That kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden they said, thank you and good night. And I was like, oh no, they were playing. We didn't even know they were playing. And I felt so bad because no one announced them. And they didn't talk in between the songs. They didn't say, hi, we're the ABC band and our website is da-da-da-da-da. You can find us. Especially with people walking in and out. Their name was not on the marquee. They did not have a merch table. And to this day, I do not know who that band was. I still to this day, this was years ago, I feel so bad. If you get an opportunity to play in front of a big crowd, they need to take something away with them that knows who you are. Whether it's a card, it's a link to something, it's go to the party store and get kazoos and put your link on it. I don't care. They need to walk away with it so they can find you again. And it's not happening. People are not asking for it, and so they can put that on their that they played at the Greek on their schedule and stuff, but it doesn't mean anything. They got no fans from that kind of stuff. So I don't know how they get on the bill. So it's just a good opportunity. And if it ever happens to you, you want to make sure, first of all, if they're not going to announce you, you announce yourself. And you do it a couple times. Put a banner up at least or something so we know who you are. And then make sure that there's a place that people can come and look at your merch or meet you at the table or something like that. Bring a table. For the longest time, in fact, I had a card table in the back trunk for the longest time until one of the touring bands took it and I never got it back. All right. Because if you are playing at a place where people are sitting at tables, they don't want to give you a table. So you got to have one yourself. And if they want you to, like, anybody been to Hotel Cafe? There's a place in the front that they want you to sell. Nobody is buying there. You know, I go right by the bar where there's a light and I say to the waitress, can I sit up here? And she goes, yeah, sure. You know, and I sit up there so people can see me. I tell the band, come off this side of the stage, not that side. I need you to come near the merch table. Don't go off that side. They don't always listen to me, but it's the way to get people to come to you. You got to get people to come to you. And then I'll give you one more thing, and then I'll answer questions. I had a girl that I work with in Pasadena. She was a blues rock girl. She had her own band, and then she also was doing solo and stuff like that. And she was playing mostly in Pasadena. And then one day she said, oh, I'm going to play on Tuesday in Hollywood. And I went, why are you playing on Tuesday? And she was like, well, because that's good. It's in Hollywood. I'm like, She goes, it's free to get in. I'm like, okay. And so I didn't even go. I told her I'm not going. It's at 10 o'clock. I worked all day. I was at school all day. I'm not coming. I just let you know I'm not coming. Right. So she goes, and I called her next day. How'd it go? She goes, one person came. And I said, she goes, I texted and I emailed and I called people and nobody came. And I said, and do you know why people didn't come? And she goes, no, why? I said, because it's Tuesday and it's Hollywood. Even if it's free, got to pay to park, got to pay $8 for a beer. And they live in Pasadena. They are not getting home from work and driving into Hollywood on Tuesday. And I said, why did you take that? She goes, they offered it to me. I said, that is not a reason. No. Pick and choose what you think is going to work for your career. If it doesn't, say no. It's okay to say no. Say no. That's not going to work for me. I will not play at midnight. Don't ever play at midnight. People do not stick around. I don't care what they tell you. People don't stay. Play early instead of late. Never play late. Everybody leaves. Don't do that. So I said to her, this is what I want you to do. I need you to go find a merch item you give away that doesn't cost a lot of money. And after you come off stage, wherever you're playing, you need to go out and say to people, do you want a merch? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? And start talking to them, right? And so she started doing that. And I knew she was doing it because I went to see her in Pasadena and it took her a while to get to me. So I knew she was outgoing and stuff like that. She loved to talk to people anyway. So she got this little bottle opener that was also a keychain that looked like a guitar and had her logo on it, you know? And so she did it for 3 months. And then she did her EP release party at Hotel Cafe, Sunday at 9 o'clock. And she says, God, I hope people come. I said, watch, they're going to come. 41 people came that night and paid a $15 fee, right? She got paid. People bought her EP. We had a cake for her, you know, balloons. We really celebrated what was going on. And at the end, she was like, I'm so glad people came. And I said, she says, I get it now. Every time I go into a new place, no one knows who I am. So I have to return to that place, but I need to talk to people. Because even if there's only 10 people in the room, those 10 people are really important. And so all those little gigs count, right? And so I talked to her. I said, so see what happens. You know, I said, you know, these 41 people who came, this is your fan base. Because next time, if they all bring one person, that's 82 people in the room. And she goes, all big light bulb went over her head. She goes, I get it. I totally get it now. You know, I have to be available, especially when I'm playing live. So that's what I do. Musicians, I shake their tree a little bit and go, but why did you take something on Tuesday night in Hollywood? That kind of stuff. So I think it's really important that you pick and choose what's going to help your career. And you can promote it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm off my box now. So you can.
No, that's great. And then, one of the things that I've always thought though is that sometimes you do take these gigs that are kind of throwaway gigs, so that you can't put them on your resume, but also you never know who you're going to meet, especially in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I remember a while back I was at the Rainbow Club of all places, and I'm sitting there, and it was an open mic. It was terrible. The guys were horrible. Everybody was drunk or loaded. And then this guy came and sat down next to me. I looked, this guy looks awfully familiar. Where have I seen him before? And it turned out it was Jeff Goldblum.
Oh,
And I said, "Oh, hi," and he goes, "Hi," and we talked a little bit, and he says, "Yeah, I just came here because my friend's playing, and I just bought a bar out in downtown LA, man. It's like the diviest place in the heart of Skid Row." And I go, "Really?" "Yeah, man, come play." He didn't even know me or anything else. He just, "Yeah, come play," And I thought, well, this is kind of weird. And of course, I did go there. I tripped over a few drunks to get there, and but it was interesting.
right.
Yeah, and apparently his bar was so successful that he sold it not too long afterwards. But it's still there as far as I know.
But that's why it's important to do your best shows, even if there's only a couple people in the room.
Yeah.
I was in the room with one of my friends' bands, and there were literally probably 6 of us, and there was a guy sitting in the back. And the guy came up after they were finished and said, "Love that third song. I work for Universal Films. I want to use it." When you're in Hollywood, you just never know who's going to be listening to you. And, I know all of you aren't in Hollywood, and that's okay too. But again, you have to remember where I come from. I'm a crazy fan. I would drive 4 hours to see the band I liked and bring people with me, go home and work the next day. I was a crazy fan. I come from the fan perspectives. I don't play a lick. Right? So I come from the fan perspective. So I look at it and go, would I buy that? Or look at a video and go, I don't know. After a minute, would I really click the button? That kind of stuff. So I come from a different area than maybe even some people in the industry. I come from being a fan first. Basically.
Okay. Well, we've got a few questions that are popping up in the chat. Real quick, you might want to just kind of type in real fast how to get a hold of you, because I see Flo was be interested in continuing to talk to you and consultation, all of the good stuff. And then Bree also mentioned, how do you feel about street performers?
I love street performers. That busking gets you a lot of notice. And that's really, it also perfects your craft. To just play when people are just walking by, but still do a good job. You never know who's listening. And it just makes you a good performer when you do that kind of stuff. Down on the Santa Monica 3rd Street there where people do the busking and stuff like that. I have a music friend that's, when it's happening, he goes down every Saturday and goes early and gets the spot that he wants. And he said, I stay till I make $150. And he goes, sometimes I'm there all day, and sometimes I'm there for 2 hours, basically. And he makes sure people take things so they know who he is. And, they even he has I'm sure most of you know, there are those free QR codes that you can put on your flyers and stuff like that, where people can scan their phone and then go right to your video or your song or something like that. And more people are using that, because then it says scan this to hear my song. And then people go, before they throw it out, they go, oh, let me see. And they kind of put it on their phone. Everybody has a phone, no matter what's going on. So it's important to look at that stuff.
Absolutely. One of the things that I found too when I was playing promenade with some friends is it really hones your entertainment skills. I know that
Definitely.
when we're at the Coffee Gallery, Bob Stain, who runs that, he always mentions that you are not in the music business, you are in the entertainment business, and don't you forget that.
Right.
And I said, what do you mean? He goes, if you're not entertaining, you could be boring as shit. And you're sitting there staring at your shoes. Do you think people are going to want to go and pay money to watch you stare at your shoes? No. And to prove that point, I had a friend that was playing the promenade, and he came to me and said, Jimmy, I played the promenade and nobody even gave a, I said, well, what are you doing? So I went to go see him, and he was very boring. Great songs, but very boring. So I went up the street to that, I forget what shop it was, but I bought him a Cat in the Hat hat, one of those silly, stripe things. I said, put this on. I said, why? Just put the fucking thing on. So he put it on. He started doing the songs again. All of a sudden, people stopped because he was wearing this silly hat. And he says, how come people are stopping? He says, because you're wearing the stupid hat. You are now an entertainer. Don't you get it? And he goes, oh. And so then he started doing crazier stuff. And the more and more he started doing things, he began to realize that, yeah, if he entertains his audience, then things change. And, stage patter is also very important. And he developed that too.
Yeah.
You start talking
Especially
about.
when you're a solo artist.
Yep.
It's hard to be a solo artist and sing a long time. You really have to be an entertainer, more than anything else. Be more interactive with the crowd, that kind of stuff. My artist Harold, he's a master at that. He's been doing it for a long time. People will walk in the room and he'll make up a song of what he's seeing, people sitting down and having a birthday party and all that kind of stuff. And then people go, is he singing about us? That kind of stuff. So, but it is an art. It's an art. It's the way people will pay attention to you. And I always say that if you start doing things like people are paying attention to you and then they don't, because you do a song that, pushes them away. I call it the bathroom song. Everybody has one, right? Everybody's going to go back and get a beer. They're going to leave for a couple minutes. And whoever is the singer in the front, whoever is the main guy, if they see people walking away, you need to call a cover song. It's the only thing that will bring people back in front of you is something familiar. And then you need to evaluate what that song was that was not working, that you should not do fourth in your set, and maybe go somewhere else, or maybe it doesn't go for this crowd or something like that. So everybody has a bathroom song. Don't feel bad. When I told Harold I said, that's your bathroom song. He goes, what? I'm like, and he has hundreds of songs. And I just go, that one's just not happening. And he's still doing it. He always laughs. He looks at me and laughs when he does it anyway.
I even tell people myself, says, okay, this is time for bathroom break. I'm going to write, and I sing my worst possible song or a really bad cover.
Right.
And, sometimes it works. I can see Gary's wearing the silly hat. Yay, Gary. Thanks, man. That's
Love it.
Yeah. Also, again, you guys make sure you put your questions in the chat so we see that. One of the guys here is mentioning that he's really not sure about his market. He says, I don't know who or where to market the odd retro stuff that I do. And
it comes back to that question is, what are you trying to say with your songs to people? When they listen to it, what do you want people to think about? What do you make them feel? Go back to the emotion before anything else, and because a lot of people are mixed genre, if you're like blues and jazz and you mix them, sometimes that works against you because the blues people want to be blues, the jazz people want to be jazz, and then sometimes it doesn't match. Like they're going, you're not bluesy enough, or you're not jazzy, and you're like, dude, I am. And they're like, no, you don't think you are, and so, but there's other markets you can be like concerts in the park that like all kinds of music and things like that. So, I do, again, I'm looking at that out of the box thing. So, and it's also go back to, besides just emotion and what your songs are talking about, think about if you heard a song like yours, where would you find it? Where would somebody, and then you can start thinking, how old am I? That I'm watching that, I'm listening to that, most of the people that I work with are over 40. And we have made more money, except for COVID, in this DIY area than we ever have in our lives. Because if you look at statistics of stuff going on right now, people that are 50 and above are buying more music than people 15 to 25. Who is catering to that market? Are you catering to that market? Because guess what? Somebody needs to. Because those people, these people have been listening to music our whole lives, and we're always still looking at music and stuff. And so they're paying for their kids to go. They're pitching their kids to go. And that's why you see whole families going to see the Rolling Stones, or some other kind of artists like that, because people who have the money will pay for what they're looking for. So that market there, as far as I know, there is no record company that has target marketed people over 50. Still, if you know one, tell me, because I have not seen that. And you're like, well, why not? Are they not looking at the statistics? What's going on with this stuff? And so, and my one artist just turned 40. He said, Chris, I don't want to play for 20-year-olds anymore. And I said, but you're not playing for 20-year-olds anymore. You're playing for people your own age. Look at where you're playing. You're playing at summer concert series, outdoor things. You're playing at wineries. You're playing at beer festivals. You're playing at places that people are your same age. And he was like, you're right. I didn't even have to say that, did I? No, not really. But I'm glad you realized it, and it's okay. You do, unless you are going after the 15 to 21 market, it does not matter how old you are. Not anymore.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I always tell my clients too, is that, look around you. What are your interests? Because if you have an interest, there's going to be people that have that same interest. And in fact, Facebook always keeps throwing that in our faces, that there's a Facebook group for everything, which is true.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a unicyclist, for example, then of course there's going to be a unicycle club out there, right? And if you've got a unicycle club, hey, you're going to be playing for that unicycle club.
They're going to have parties.
You can have parties. You can be the musician for that. If you're into circus stuff, well then, hey, you can play for a circus. You can hook up with a circus and make things happen. If you're playing music that sounds like a vintage Cole Porter fan club, and by the way, I write songs that are like Cole Porter, it's like there's all kinds of ways that you can get into that door and make things happen. So it's pretty exciting.
Definitely, yeah.
And that kind of ties into what Catherine Beck was talking about too. How do I get a promoter influencer for YouTube videos and stuff? And,
why aren't you an influencer yourself? I'm going back to that. You need to know who are the influences for your music. I have a copy of the Indie Bible, and it is a list of, and there's one for Spotify now for curators and stuff, and it's by genre of music. So buy one and share it with somebody. I've been sharing my 2019 with my classes forever, right? Because these are the people that have 30,000 people as subscribers and stuff like that. So it may be a subject, or it may be the kind of music, right? And so instead of you looking for that, look for people who do your genre of music. And then you can't just go post my song or something like that. You need to go into the blog or look at the magazine or whatever it is, see what's going on, make a comment a couple times, really like what you said, and then you can say, I have similar music. How do I submit to you? But you just don't go in and go, cover my song, because I'm good or whatever. Don't ever, I hate those emails. The people that go, hi, if you take me on, we can make money. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And then they send me like 14 singles to listen to. And I'm going, one of my friends, I was going out, it was a year ago. We were going out somewhere and I was finishing an email. And one of my friends going, what are you doing? I'm just sending this email to this, whoever emailed me. And they said, well, do you answer all those? I said, I try. But if you send me an email that's this long and they say stuff like, I'm homeless in my car, but I can really make good beats. And I'm like, oh shoot. Okay. Now you don't want to tell me that. I had a record deal, but they let me go and now I'm nowhere, but you can help me. I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you, lead with something that says, who you are, what you're all about. And here's my video. Here's a link to my video, and don't give too many don't give too many people too many links, because all they'll do is hit the first one, you know? So I would rather get a video, just one video. Give me a link to a video and put your website down. If you don't have a website, then start a Bandcamp. It's free. You can even sell on Bandcamp. Don't tell me you don't have a website, you know, but I have 1 million subscribers or people who look at me on Instagram. I'm like, that doesn't count. And I have to be able to find you. I have to find you. I listen to a song. I like it. I Google you. I can't find you. I'm off to somewhere else. And I look for you. I'm really looking. So after like 20 minutes of going, okay, they don't want to be found. Or I click a button and it says does not work or whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's just about being found. You know, I know it's not easy to find a name that's not taken. So go to GoDaddy or domain name and play with a name for a day till you know you can get the domain, the .com, not anything else but the .com, because it comes up on Google. And then also check to see if anybody else has that for Facebook, Instagram, all those kind of social media. Because just because you have the domain name doesn't mean it's not taken. The internet is not regulated. People can do whatever they want. And so you don't want people to find, and the first thing I do, sometimes I find people who have a unique name. And I go, have you looked up on GoDaddy to see if your name is taken? And they're like, well, no. And I go, let's do it right now. And we go on and their name's not, I said, take it. You're going, oh, but I have a band. I said, but you will always be you as a musician. Even if you don't use it right now, it is you. Go, if right now, when you're done here, go Google your name. If it's not taken, get it for 99 cents or whatever it is, because you'll always have it. And your name might be taken and then you can't do that. So some people put the R in it or use your middle name or something like that. But I might, in fact, that happened to me. I was looking for, there's this guy that I watched his webinar and he did I thought maybe somebody would ask me about licensing or something like that. And he did a webinar, free webinar. His name's Jody Friedman. And when I Googled Jody Friedman, I couldn't find him. So his website is Jody Aaron Freeman. And so I know he did that webinar and he had other videos and I couldn't find them. So I emailed him. I don't remember, whatever social media was on. I sent him a message and I said, how can I get into your music supervision stuff? And so he emailed me back and said, go to licenseyourmusic.com. I was like, well, that's cool. He got that, you know. And so he said a lot of great things within an hour's time about how to get ready if you've never been submitting your music and stuff like that. And of course, he has a course and stuff. So I don't know anything about his course. I'm not pushing his course. Most of the people I talk about, they don't even know I talk about them, basically. But I watched his webinar. I was like, this is good information, you know. And so I said, I might tell people. So tell me because I couldn't find you. Why can't I find you? And I'm like, why can't I find you? You know? And he was like, well, my name was taken. So that's why I had to put my real name and, you know, and that kind of stuff. So, so go after your name first.
Yeah, that's good. One of the other questions that's up here is basically, how do you choose who's ready to actually take the next step?
I have to see them. It's all about me seeing the live show. I know, and somebody laughed at me the other day in class when I said, when I go to see a band, actually, or a musician, I like them to not know what I look like, because then I can just come in and they don't know who I am. And I can stand in the front and I can stand in the back and, you know, that kind of stuff. If I do ever come see you and you invite me, if you see me in the crowd, you won't see me when at the end. I leave because you should be doing the stuff. Don't come see me afterwards. You should be doing stuff that you should be doing with your crowd. Getting off the stage, going to your merch table, and I will leave with my little notes. And then the next day we can get an email or talk on the phone. But that's kind of, that's kind of what I do. But for me, I said, I know how a band's going to be by how they get on stage. And they were going, what are you talking about? I said, if the curtains close and they say, and now the ABC band, and you go out and there's a beginning, I know they're going to be good. I know that they got their business together. But if they open the curtains and they don't announce you and they go, where's the drummer? And the drummer comes out from the back and jumps on stage, and then they all look at each other, and then there's some more time in between and they start, I'm like, this band's not together yet. I right now, I know they're not together because they're not taking this show seriously. In fact, when we do shows, especially special shows, I do not let my musicians go out to the crowd beforehand. There's a reason why stages are high. It's so people look up to you, right? So your everyday people are looking up to you as a musician. If you are standing in the crowd with them, then you're just my buddy. But if you are announced and the lights go on and it starts, they put you on a pedestal. And that's what you want. You want your everyday people that know you every day, every single day, to look up when you play. And that's why it's good to have a little stage. There's a reason why stages are high. And I believe that you can take advantage of that.
Nancy had asked to repeat a name. Which name did you have in?
The one that does music supervision.
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah. I think it was. It was somebody you were talking. It was somebody you were talking about just about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, his website, where you want to go is licenseyourmusic.com.
Okay.
That's where you'll find his information. His name is Aaron Freeman.
That's it.
And then there's another guy. His name is Michael Eisler. Eisner. ELSNER. And his is mastermusiclicensing.com. He does some great stuff too. He did a couple days seminars where he talked to different kinds of music supervisors and what they do. And that stuff is still up online.
Great.
I do a catalog. Here's an independent thing. I work in TV, all that kind of stuff. And then he talked to songwriters that do this for a living.
Yes.
And so I was very impressed.
Okay.
with what
Thank
he
you.
did.
Thank you.
I think that they're the best ones I've seen in the last 4 or 5 months.
Okay. Catherine was asking about performance classes. Now, one of the things that I believe is that it's always best just to play out. Open mic showcases and things like that. That's really the best place to learn about performing because you'll see other people, you'll learn from their mistakes, you'll hook up with their fan bases, especially, which is a very good thing. And so for myself, performance classes are okay, but then you're only getting it from the perspective of whoever's teaching it. Whereas if you're in an open mic situation, you're going to learn from all 20 people that are there.
Yeah. And when you're doing a show, you need to rehearse. If you go to record, you need to rehearse. You need to rehearse all the instruments that you're going to do before you go in, because it costs money to be in there. And also a show is the same way. I would say that a band's not a band unless you're rehearsing a couple times a week. Even if you don't have a show, you should be working on new songs, new arrangements, all that kind of stuff all the time. Stop playing your same 8 songs. Are you not tired of playing your same 8 songs? Because your audience is tired of it. You can't go. I've had bands that's all they had in them. That's it. 8 songs, that's it. There were no more. And then they started kind of doing cover songs and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with being a cover band. If that's what you want to do, you can make some great money out here. Even if you do something like you play harp on the side or you play ukulele or something like that, all of these big hotels have all these events. They will anyway, coming up again, right? The person who does, you have to call the hotel and talk to the salesperson. The group salesperson is the person when United Airlines comes in to do their conference and take over the whole hotel, they're going, so what kind of music do you need? And they go, well, what do you have? We have this, and if you want a band, we can do this. And we're talking about if you're a solo artist, you are making $1,500 for like, a short time, because let's face it, the cake is $5,000. So they have a budget. One of my friends actually went to a hotel. He had a big conference that was going on. And I said, how much are they charging you for the sound? And he goes, oh, it doesn't matter. And I'm going, no, Hal, how much are they charging for the sound? And he goes, you got to tell me now. And he goes, $1,000. I said, no, they have the sound system. They're paying the sound guy like $50. I said, you need to negotiate that. He goes, we got the money. Don't worry about it. I hate that. But they got the budget, So you can get into, and my artist Harold, who does a lot of different things, he plays at high-end hotels where he does cover songs, he does some originals and all that kind of stuff. And the reason he does it because he loves it, most of all. But second of all, it costs $1,000 a night to stay at those hotels. In the summertime, people bring their whole families and stay for the summer. These people are billionaires and they're dropping $100 bills in, and then they're going, dude, I really like how you did that song. Can I fly you into New York to do a party for us? Yeah, we can pay you $3,000 to $5,000. Does that work? They're like, yeah. He called me on the phone going, what am I doing this Friday? I'm like, nothing. He goes, going on a private plane, And then when he got in the plane, he called me, he goes, it's just me, one other guy, and the pilot. And I said, well, have a good time and enjoy it. But remember, next week we go back to coach. So I just telling you, because we can save money if you don't go first class and we have to pay for it.
Yeah, and that is another important thing too, is to make sure that you do drop your information with places that have public events, because you never know. Those public events, quite often, people plan their public event, but they don't plan for the music until the last second. They go, oh my gosh, we forgot to have entertainment. What do we need? Well, we need somebody to just play some music for 20 minutes while we're serving coffee. There you go. You could be that person.
I did tell my class today, and I'm going to tell you guys because I don't want you to miss the opportunity. Wherever you are, right? Summer stuff is going to start. They are booking it. So Redondo Beach has a summer concert series, they have a Concerts in the Park series. They have Sherman Oaks once a year has a street fair, all that kind of stuff where they have music and stuff. You need to contact those people now. Within the next couple of weeks, they are going to book it because they want to book the whole summer. So hopefully you have a video you can send to them, right? So you can pitch it. So this is what you do, wherever city, and you can just, again, stay in your city and go to different cities, the city of Encino, the city of Malibu, the city of wherever Loveland, the city of Chicago, wherever you are basically, and do the city of the name. And then when you get there, look for the Department of Recreation. And they are the people who book all the city events.
And Chamber of Commerce too.
Chamber of Commerce too. So you can also go to the Chamber of Commerce because that Chamber of Commerce knows everything happening in the town because they have to get permits to do different things. So they know that. So you can call, just email, you know what? Most people, my students, I said, how many people have made a phone call in the last week? Text, right? And I'm going, I'm sure you guys haven't even written an email. The last email I got was definitely on a text because it wasn't full words and all the lines wrote together. No, you have to be a little professional, In fact, somebody emailed me that and I emailed them back going, oh, let me just tell you, next time you email somebody, let me tell you what you need to do. So I'm not going to take you on, but I'm going to give you some advice. You can listen to it or not, because some people just don't know how to approach those things. but this is the time. A lot of them will book for the summer, will book for the fall. Start looking for summer and fall right now, because if the city likes you, and even if they put you in a small event and something else comes bigger, they will call you. You'll be the first people they call, and then they'll have more money for different things. And so if you can do it, they should be paying you something, because they got grant monies, they got city monies, they should be paying you something. Don't do a city event for free. Don't do it. Say, I have to pay my guys, something, even $50 a guy or whatever, a musician or whatever you're doing. And they should be providing your sound for you. If you got to bring your sound, they have to pay for it. Don't, even if you own a sound system, tell them you can get a sound system for $150 or something like that. And they have to pay for it. One way or another, they're going to have to pay for it. So why not it be you if it's going to be something for you doing? So for those, and they will book now. And I'm sure there'll be a little new thing that says COVID section, right? That says, if we have to cancel this, we can go virtual, because they're all going to go virtual. The venues who will survive all this will have to go virtual, and because you can't fit as many people in to the they're not allowed to 25. You're not allowed to have anybody in LA yet, but they're going to start at 25%, and the ticket's going to be higher to be there, and then they're going to have to go virtual, and they're going to have to buy tickets that way. And if they don't do it, they're dead in the water. Those venues, culottes has it made, right? I always told him, you have a gold mine here, and he never believed me, and he is way ahead. Just in this town, we don't have that. Now they're going to have to do it. If they don't do it, they're not going to be able to survive. They're just not going to be able to survive.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been finding too with some of these virtual events is that you don't have to sell tickets, because quite often they're sponsored, or you can find your own sponsor.
Right.
And in that way, your audience can still come and see you for free, because now whoever's buying your advertising is going to be generating the revenue for you. So that's kind of a good thing here. A couple other quick questions that came up here. Who are some of the good booking agents in the LA area? Now, I kind of know that answer. If you don't have anything that's worth booking, then they will not work with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, here's my barometer. If you're doing 50 shows a year and getting paid, then you can pitch yourself to a booking agent. Think about it. The booking agent is getting 15% max. So if I'm not booking you for $2,000, I'm not making any money. And so you need to show them that you are making money, and they'll take you on. But if you find a booking agent, sometimes they have a junior agent and they're working with the big agents, and they let them take somebody on. So they'll let them add them to this show and all that kind of stuff. Look for the junior agents, because they could possibly turn you on to little things. And then if they like you, then they can kind of take you on as a client. Look to other people who their agents are. Try to get booked where they're playing. So if you see them playing at, something that's, I don't know, the Ford Amphitheater or something like that. So, and you're going to go on their website, it's going to give you their booking agent. Contact their booking agent first and say, hi, we're a similar act. I'm in LA, wanted to know if I can open up. And then they will look at you and they will determine if you will open up. But they won't pay you much. The most that we ever got was a couple $100 to do a 20-30 minute set, but you get in front of a really good crowd.
That also kind of ties into the pay-to-play thing here in LA. When is it really worth kind of selling the tickets, pay-to-play essentially, to open for like a large artist?
Well, the couple things that we did with one of my touring bands is they were touring. We did an LA show about 4 times a year. And when we did, we could bring 130 people through the door. Can you do that? Because if you can do that, then you can start opening for touring bands that are coming through town. So we started at the small venues that get the touring bands, The Bootleg is one of them, and it's run by Golden Voice. And so they got to know who we were. And then the bigger venues were the Roxy, you know, the Wiltern. So it goes up, you know, as you started doing it. So we were getting in with the touring bands that were coming through. We still had to draw. We didn't have to draw 100, but I told everybody, we still need to draw. You still need to bring 50 people through the door so they can see that we can bring people. But we had enough time to promote that to make it happen, you know. And so then when we got to know the band and who was on the road, then when they were on the road doing other gigs and they wanted us to play with them. So that's kind of how we started getting into bigger venues and touring and stuff like that. But we had our own fan base first. You know, I told them when we were doing stuff and they were on tour and they, Facebook was really big a couple years ago and they were like stuck at the 7,000 mark. And I was like, you're on tour. How come it didn't grow? What are you doing on the road? Are you not talking to people? What's going on? You know? And so that's when they decided they were going to do a weekly Facebook Live. And they did it right before their rehearsal, 8:00. And they would sit in the living room and sometimes there'd be two of them and sometimes there'd be all of them. And sometimes they would just talk or they do a cover song or they do part of their song or something like that. And it was like, I think it was, and it kept growing. Then it kept growing. You know, they did it every week they were supposed to. And sometimes they pitched a show and sometimes they didn't. And then I think it was about 3 months in, I called and said, you're over the 10,000 mark. And they go, what are you talking about? I said, on Facebook. And they go, oh, we even forgot why we were doing that. They weren't even paying attention to it. But we were at the point where I wanted to go after sponsors because we were doing festivals and we were doing colleges and we were going up and down the West Coast. And so it was time, but I needed to show we had interaction going on. I needed to show, because they were together for like 4 years at that point. So it was a natural progression. It wasn't something we sold. We didn't buy those. You know, you could see it grow, you know, that kind of stuff. So, so that's, you know, that's my barometer. In this touring industry, you're going to have to look at sponsors because everything costs so much money. And there's more and more. I now do a course. I finally got it back from MI. I'm doing a course called Sponsorship and Endorsements. And so on how to do those things, because I had 18 equipment endorsements before we were signed, one of my artists. And then we had a publishing deal before we had a record deal. And then we got a Budweiser sponsor. And I have to tell you, it changed our lives because we got on bills that we could have never gone on before. They gave us money to do whatever we wanted with. They took care of all of our promotion for us. And it really made a huge difference. And we did not go after that sponsorship, where we should have, but we did not, right? They went to KLOS and said, what are the top 5 bands in Los Angeles that aren't signed? And we were one of the 5 that Joe Benson said. And they called us out of the blue and said, will you do a showcase for us? And I'm like, okay. And it was 10:00 in the morning. And there's all these people in suits standing like this. And I'm like, oh no, they're going to hate us. And I had a blues rock band that was really loud. And so I know if I told them not to be loud, they'd be even louder. But they were so loud that they were going and moving back like this. I was like, they hate us. We're never going to get this. And then when one of the guys came up and he took the toilet paper out of his ears, he said, we really like you. We'd like you to. And I'm like, really? I was like, I couldn't believe that he liked us. But it changed our lives, which opened up ideas for me about sponsorships. You know, going after first things that you like, and maybe not Coke, but maybe a sub brand of Coke. What's new? You know, vitamin water or a new energy drink or something else. Because when I talked to my classes, said something like $47 billion were put towards music events for sponsorships a couple years ago. They want to be involved with music events, you know. And the other thing, and this just blew my mind about the sponsorships, it said that 89% of the people in the audience that see an artist they like drink or wear something will try it. 89%. And I was like, I guess I'm part of the 11% because I'm a hard sell, because I hate Coke. And I only drink diet soda. But if you put a Diet Pepsi and a Diet Coke next to me, I'm going to Pepsi every time. If I have to go to Coke, I will, but I won't like it. Right? So they're not going after me. They're going after everybody, the 89%, right? And I was like, I was still so flabbergasted. So if they wear a certain earring, or if they have the hair a certain way, or if they wear Doc Martens or anything like that, people go, they're cool. I'm going to get them just like you. And I was like, really? People really do that? But that's why they want to sponsor you. That's the whole reason. How many people are going to see you play the guitar, wear the item, any of that stuff? And that's what will get you the sponsors.
Yeah, and there's other places too, like you're mentioning. Microbreweries are all over the place, and micro roasters if you're into coffee. So the same thing happens. You'll find a local microbrewery or coffee roaster, and you can create an event with these people.
Right. And
when you create the event together, both of you have a vested interest in it, and of course that's where the sponsorship starts. So that's a very good point and something.
And the other thing is sometimes if you tie your event in with a charity event, it will go a long way. So I had a girl who did that, and she went to an art gallery, and she was going to do an event, and it was a little area in the back. And I said, okay, where is it? Santa Monica. Let's look online. What's near there? There's a Costco. There's, this. There's a winery. And I said, you need to go with your flyer, and you're showing that you're going to give a certain amount of money to the charity, and go in and say, would you be willing to sponsor us some way? And she got a wine sponsor. She got Costco to say, just make a list of what you want and you can pick it up in the morning. And she was like, what should I get? I said, always get more than you need, but use the Kirkland brand because they'll give you more. And if you go, they'll go back to that stuff. She just needed to contact them a month ahead of time. So she had all these things. She had food, all this kind of stuff. So people were paying. And then she actually took, I think she did too much, but she took 50% and sent it to the charity. But you don't have to do 50%. You can just do a small percent, And when she was doing it, she was trying to do more of those. And I said, Madeline, how are you, you're covering your costs, right? And she goes, well, I make sure all the musicians get paid and all that kind of stuff. I said, well, you take that money off the top, right? And she was like, well, no, not paying the musicians and stuff or paying for the sound system. I said, no, you take all the money off the top for your expenses, and whatever is left is what you share with the charity. She was like, you can do that? I said, yeah, you're supposed to do that. She was like, oh, I've been doing it all wrong. All right. And so she was like, okay, so I can really make money. I'm like, yeah, you can really make money from all this stuff, So it's really interesting. I just think in the past couple of years, especially DIY musicians have really started thinking of new ways to reach their audience. And I'm totally impressed.
Yeah, I think Nancy actually was doing some things with Frontline Strong, one of the songs that she wrote, and raising money for charities that way. And that turned out pretty good. Did you want to say something about that, Nancy? You can mention real quick.
You're muted. There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, I did a song, Frontline Strong, and I wanted to write a song that would honor and uplift and give voice to the frontline workers and the healthcare workers, because one night I was watching the Rachel Maddow show, April of 2020, and she featured a young ICU nurse that described her day-to-day routine, her shift with her coworkers, serving coronavirus patients. And it was the most sobering episode I'd ever seen, and it moved me to tears, and I felt they had no voice, and it made me want to write something and give them a gift because they felt underappreciated and lost. So I decided I'd write this song, and finance it myself. It took me some months to write it the way I wanted it to be. And then I decided I was going to turn it into a complete charity, and just and it would be the first song I ever sold on the internet. I've put things up on SoundCloud and Reverb Nation and so forth, but I did put it on the about 6 or 7 different popular website stores, and it started to turn, and it's been opening doors, is what I found. It's opening doors into other areas that I had no idea that it would do. And it turned out that there would be interest in songs I had written previous to Frontline Strong, which really shocked me. And now I feel that just doing something straight from the heart seems to be a huge payment in itself. I understand what you're saying to the gal earlier about, yes, you take it off the top and everything. And I did make the decision that this is coming from me. It's coming from my heart. If I make it or break it, it doesn't matter. It's that I can put a smile on the face of these people, these Frontline Strong workers, the healthcare workers. And it's been very, very gratifying. And now I was asked to do something. And again, it's something from the heart, which is to, in Albuquerque, doing and Jimmy's going to do it as well, where we help. It's to help the people on both sides of the border through a missionary situation, and they wanted original songwriters to utilize a song that was 5 minutes or less, and since they couldn't, they were going to have a silent auction. And most silent auctions have live music. Well, they didn't have live music, obviously, but they still wanted music. So they invited a bunch of songwriters, or tried to get us to get everybody together. And they were going to loop it all together. And it's really turning out to be, it's going to be quite an event for them. I'm sure it's going to be nice quality things to sell. But there's a lot of things to associate ourselves with if we do want to get our music out there. Sometimes I must say it's not always for the money. But the doors, like I said earlier, those doors can open because of what you're doing. And I think that's what I'm starting now to find.
But also learn from that. Think about if you do another cause, what companies might want to help sponsor that that will push it even further.
Okay.
So every single company, wherever, if you pick Target or Coke or whoever it is, if you put their name up there and write social responsibility,
yes,
it will tell you what they give money to, what they want to be a part of.
Okay.
They want to be a part of, multicultural events. They want to be a part of, anything that has to do with cancer research. They want to, whatever it is. And so it will take a little, you can kind of try to Google that, because by inviting them to be a sponsor,
okay,
to help pay for production, they get their name associated with goodwill in the community. And that's what
beautiful.
they want. They want to do that. And there's a lot of them. They have so much money that every year, instead of paying taxes on it,
yes,
they sponsor things, which is advertising for them.
yes,
So they do not have to pay for it. And
okay,
for instance, if you just went, because they want to know what you need, like you say, we think we need $10,000 to do this production or something like that.
Okay, sure.
And get PR to do it and all that kind of stuff. $10,000 is a drop in the bucket for those guys. The festivals are asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for you to come with a small project that's community oriented, and that's what they want to be a part of, there's no reason why you can't partner with them to do that kind of stuff, because it's going, again, I admire you for taking the money out of your pocket, but you're doing enough by contributing your creativity, and you're not getting paid for that. And so you are still giving of your heart, but to get the promotional push so people can be a part of that, you're going to need money to make that happen. And a sponsor can help you do that.
Yeah, sponsorships can actually be pretty small stuff too. Like one of the things that I do whenever I do an event like that is I always go to Costco first, and they give me water. They'll give me
Yeah.
as much Kirkland water as I want, even though I can't drink it for other reasons. But well, no, it's got so much mineral crap in it that it triggers my gout, so
Right.
I can't drink Kirkland water. But I'll get flats for free that I can put out there for people, and people appreciate that, and they remember, oh, this event had free water. They'll remember that for some weird reason, even if it's Kirkland water. They'll remember that, and so they'll come back to your events knowing that odds are you're going to have free water for them, and they don't have to worry about bringing water and stuff. So little things like that make a big difference when you have sponsorships.
It does. It really does. Yeah, but when I was doing my events, I always, when we were in the room doing this stuff, I always brought like some food and stuff like that for the artists and stuff like that. And one of my friends said, "You don't need to feed them." And I'm like, "I know, but it's dinner time." And they're like, and it was cookies and a cheese plate. And, I mean, it just was, just stuff to pick on. And I always brought water, stuff like that. And it was like, well, you don't need to spend money on that, And I'm going, you don't understand. They actually appreciate and want to come next time, and that's not just because I have water and I have food, but it's just I'm appreciating them too that way. And so if you can get somebody to donate that, then you might as well with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, especially nowadays. Right? We've got the COVID situation. A lot of restaurants are closed, and they would love to bring some food to your event to advertise and promote just a little bit. So that's something you can consider right now.
I'm sure you've seen the commercials. Honda has been going around doing stuff like that. Well, maybe they could do something while you're doing a live event in the park. You need to contact them and tell them what's going on, because they want to be, again, it's the reason they're doing that is community based. They want to be the household name in that area is what they're doing. So there is so much to talk about, basically, but there's just a lot of different things. I have a whole list up here that we didn't even go over today. I have a whole list here of stuff to kind of go over, but I'd rather answer your questions. So
yeah, one of the other things too is can people contact you with a couple of questions on just email? And
yeah, it's that musicbizmentors@gmail.
Okay, musicbizmentors@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So write that down, kids. Remember that, and they can ask.
And I think it was in your announcement too.
Yes, it was in the
You had my
announcement
little
as well.
bio and stuff like that too.
Right. Yeah. Not the email address, just your
Yeah, you should
website.
go to the website and still contact me.
Oh, okay, good. So it's
I don't have one of those little forms that people fill out. I have my email and my phone number up there
Okay, good.
because I want you to get a hold of me right away. And I don't want to see. I hate those forms. I just do. It's like, well, what if I like you right? What if I want to call you right now? What if I want to use your song? I need your phone number. And musicians fight me so hard on that. Putting a phone number on a website. I'm like, really? Why? I mean, my landline I have had for 14 years. It has been a hotline. It's been everything. And I still have it because people can still find me, if they need me. I still have the same phone number. If anything else, they lost something, they know I have the same phone number and same emails for a long time.
Yeah.
That's what you can find me.
Yeah, what's kind of funny to me too is that we've been doing this for over 20 years now, and we've got how many here? We got 15, 16, 17 people that are here at this event, and out of the 17 people that are here, maybe 3 of you will actually use any of the information that you got today.
Same thing as when I teach my classes for 10 weeks.
Yeah,
I can have 15 people in the class, and you're right. There's about 3 of them that will actually use what we're talking about.
Yeah. Steve had some comments too. Steve, what did you want to talk about here real quick?
There were 2, I just mentioned 2 suggestions in terms of marketing. The first was one time when I was in South Beach in Miami, and there was this guy named Alex Fox playing. And of course, the context here is a big venue, everybody's sitting outside. But what he did, which was really clever, was he had these two young ladies who were very attractive walking around to all the tables in that venue and asking people if they wanted to buy CDs. Now, nowadays you could substitute a thumb drive or something like that. But the point is, while he was playing, he had two people out there selling table to table. And it's the only time I've ever seen that. And I thought, what a brilliant technique. And it's so obvious and so straightforward. The other one was a suggestion from another seminar I'd gone to. And it was a guy who came up with this concept, again, very similar. But he was on Hollywood Boulevard. He had CDs with 2 or 3 songs. And of course, again, you can substitute a thumb drive these days. But what he did was he stopped people and said, I'm a songwriter, and I want to give you a free CD of my songs in exchange for if I can have your email address. So what he wound up doing was accumulating this list of people, this mailing list of, after a while doing this, of hundreds of people. And he had met every single person. And every person on that mailing list had some of his songs. And I thought that was, again, a very, very clever technique, which is very doable. And this particular person giving the seminar said that was one of the most successful techniques he'd ever heard of.
Yeah. And nowadays, again, you can just have a card with a QR code on it. People can scan and go right to your song or right to your video or something like that. It's not going to cost you money to do that. But when we're on the road, I make musicians, when they have an EP, I make them do physical CDs because we sell it for $5 or a donation. And when we're on the road, no one ever gives me only $5. They will always give me more and say, just keep it. Keep it for the band. And you know what? Just they're going to download your music, but it's like a physical. If you get big, that's going to mean something to them. So it's like a merch item, basically. Yeah. So that's always worked. I went out on the road with my band, and in 2 days, I sold $500 worth of EPs. And they were going, "How come every time you come out, we buy our EPs?" I said, maybe because I'm standing at the table. Do you see me tackling anybody? I am just standing at the table. You guys are not standing at the table. I'm not pushing anything on anybody, And then people go, that's still old school. I'm like, yeah, well, hey, it's still working for us when you're doing something live. Because if you don't have anything else, so why not? And then maybe you put a QR code that they could also download it also. So they're actually buying it. They're buying the download and they're buying, the EP themselves too.
Yeah, it's a tchotchke. They want to have something physically in their hands,
Yeah, they do. They want you to sign it and all that kind of stuff.
It also gives you some credibility as well. One of the things that I found is that when I booked some festival gigs through different cities, for example, there was one locally here in Alhambra. And I booked it and I went down there and I played the show and everything else. And when I went back, I noticed that they'd asked for a CD, but they never opened it. And I said, why do you have my CD not open and you still booked me? And he goes, well, because if you have a CD, that shows me that you're invested enough. You've got credibility with us. So I don't care what you sound like, what original music you've got going on. We know that you've got some cred because you have a verifiable CD. And that made a whole lot of sense to me. And that happened at a couple different cities that I went to as well.
And how impressed people are when you put up a card table and put a piece of cloth on it and have a poster and have, a card they can take and a merch item. People are like, wow, they must be happening, And I always tell this too. They laughed at me today when I was telling the class. I said, if you are from Hollywood, then tell people you're from Hollywood, because people think if you're from Hollywood, you're happening. And you and I all know that's not true. But you will go to Phoenix and stuff, and it will say from Hollywood, and people going, "Do you hear there's a band from Hollywood here?" But you have to be good. It'll get people in the door. But if you're not good, they'll leave just as fast. So, and I had an international student. I said, now you say from Sweden, now in Hollywood. And I said, now you're international, make something different. A girl I talked to today or the other day said she was from Bangladesh. I said, you got to use that, girl. Bangladesh, and you do EDM music. That is interesting. So really just use what you got. Don't be afraid to tout your successes. When I first worked with Harold, it was 4 months before I knew he had a gold record. And he's going, I went down a dark hallway and he had gold records in the dark. And I came back and said, he goes, didn't you find whatever it was in the closet? And I'm going, but you have gold records. And he goes, yeah. And I'm going, where's the chart stuff? And he goes, you didn't get to it. That's that bottom drawer there. And I went, and it took me 2 hands to pull it out because it had so much chart stuff in it. And this was before I met him. And I was like, oh my God. So it took me years for him to allow me in the bio to say multi-platinum songwriter. He goes, do we have to say that? I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah, I don't want, yeah. I said, you don't have to say it. Someone who's announcing you can say it. Why are you trying to hide that? What is that about? And I did find that when people get success when they're younger, sometimes they one girl I know, that happened to her too. And she was like, oh, everybody has, and that's not a big deal. I go, yes, it is. You wrote a song with Carly Simon. Yes, it is a big deal. Yeah, I guess it's okay. That. I'm like, girl, you have to use what you got. And I got to convince them to use what they got until they finally get comfortable with it, So I said, you don't have to walk up and say, hi, I have gold records, I said, but I've been working with you for 3 months and you didn't tell me. Really? And he goes, what am I supposed to do? Say, hey, how you doing? I got gold records. I'm like, yeah, maybe if I work with you for 3 months and you didn't tell me yet, But some of you may have some of that happened before, but you're going, well, but it's not who I am today. But it is a credit, and it can open up for other credits. Even placing a song for a bumper, for a TV show, or something local or something like that, that is a credit, I had one student, I talked to him, he's putting his bio together. Why you guys can write a song and you can't write your bio, I don't understand. You can tell the story, but you can't tell your own story, And so I did some things with him and he brought it back and I was going through things with him. And I just said, just write down everything from when you started and then we'll go through and we'll pull things out. So he was like, okay. So he goes, you know what I forgot to put in there? I'm like, no, what? He goes, well, I don't know if this counts, but when I was 15, I did a Coke commercial. And I'm like, why do you think that doesn't count? He goes, well, that was 5 years ago. I said, dude, are you kidding me? Really? You are not going to put that in your credits. It's like, really? So it's really interesting. Be proud of what you do, what you put out, it takes a lot of work to do this stuff. And so be proud of when you put stuff out. And I think you need to have a pat on the back because you did that,
Yeah,
and
somebody put a thing
don't
in here
hide
about,
things.
yeah, somebody mentioned where you draw the line between arrogance and promotion.
I would rather you be arrogant and I can pull you down. Right? I'd rather you be too much and then I can kind of pull you down. That, again, like I said, I would love to have somebody like to promote themselves, but it doesn't usually happen, then talk in the third person at first, or a couple of years ago I did that, or, that kind of stuff. But the other thing is the 15, I know we haven't talked about this, but your 15-second elevator pitch is going to be very important. And I know you guys all look at me like I'm out of my mind, but if you can't compare yourself to other acts, then I can't play it in my head. It's all about playing it in my head, right? And if I can't, I'm like, good for you. You play rock. Okay, move on, because my rock is different than your rock. Your rock is Metallica and my rock is Van Halen. Totally different, So you can do a combination, and sometimes you go back to your influences. Who influences you, right? From when you started, and maybe compare yourself to another band. So you don't say, well, I'm the next Beatles, but you can say, you can tell that my melodies remind you of the Beatles, but my stage show is more like Bruno Mars. And it can be crazy, but that people go, wow, that's interesting. And don't worry, for those of you who said you don't sound like anybody, you're wrong. Then give your songs to 5 people that you admire, and they will tell you who you sound like. And then you get to choose, though. You get to choose if you think you sound like that. So the girl in my class said to me, well, everybody says we sound like Coldplay, and I hate Coldplay. I said, apparently you don't, because everybody says you sound like Coldplay. I said, well, then who do you sound like? And she was like, I never thought of that. So sometimes you need to plant that for people, right? And the big deal is to try to get it in your bio, because if anybody ever runs your picture with the calendar section, they're going to pull that out and say, tonight from Hollywood, your cross between that, they sound like this. And then you can go back to your bio and say, the LA Weekly says, we're a blend between this and this and this. This is the reason to change your bio, because they will take and then you go back and put something else you want somebody to say. So then people start knowing you for that kind of stuff. So again, it's about you knowing where you belong. And again, if you don't know where you belong, then sit down and go back to, what are my songs saying to people? How is it making them feel? If I was going to buy this kind of music, then where would I listen to it? Where would I get it? Those kind of things. I think it's really, that's like number one. And yeah, that's hard. I understand. That's hard. But you know what? It's worth sitting around for a couple days and thinking about it. It will change your promotion of who you are and what you're doing. So I think that's important.
Yeah, there's a girl on the circuit around here that's really funny, because everybody who sees her goes, Honda Girl, because she was the one. I remember that Helpful Honda commercial where they helped a struggling musician that was busking.
Uh-huh.
It was her, and she's on the circuit, and she's everywhere. But every time somebody says, hey, Honda Girl, she gets really embarrassed about that.
That's ridiculous. She needs to go back to Honda and get some more sponsorship. They know who she is already, right?
Yeah, well, everybody knows who she is because of that commercial, yet,
maybe she can play for Honda events.
She should.
Time for her to go corporate.
Yeah, there's a lot of things she could do, but when she plays out live, she doesn't mention that she's in that commercial, and it's just like, why?
Why are you fighting that? I had a guy that used to be in a TV show when he was a kid, and he did not want. He was Cousin Oliver in the Brady Bunch, and he did not want anybody to know. He actually looked like an adult version of what he looked like when he was a kid. Everybody knew who it was. And so he did not want it in the bio. He didn't want me to do it. And so they went on the road, and they were in Pasadena, and it said, Cousin Oliver bands today, and he calls me, goes, hey, I told you I don't want to do that. I said, I didn't say nothing. People know who you are. Why are you fighting that? Who cares? It's going to get you people to the door. Who cares? But he fought me on it, and he learned to live with it, basically. So It's really interesting, people. The biggest deal for me is I don't understand, and I know a lot of you have it, is you get in your way when you start to succeed. That part of you're not worth it is I don't understand, because I have a friend who can sing like nobody's business and he's always depressed. And I'm like, if I could wake up in the morning and sing like that to myself, I would be so happy. But you're like depressed all the time. I don't get it. Maybe you got to take some medicine or something, because I don't understand. I don't get it. If I could sing like that, I don't have to sing for anybody else. I'd be totally happy. Right? But there is all that doubt, am I good enough kind of thing. And this is my word of advice. Operate like no one's watching. And if you do that and you strive for things little by little, then they have to watch you, because things are happening with you. Stop trying to impress a record person, a producer, all that kind of stuff. Look at your career as how I want it to grow, and then you will get the accolades, and then people will have to, and this is also what we did. If I wanted an industry person to recognize us, I would get publicity and promotion, and I would send it to them. Every time I got a review, I would email it to them. Sometimes I'd copy it and put it in an envelope and send it to them without a return address. Sometimes I'd fax it to them, because nobody faxes anymore. And then they're going, who the hell is this band? Right? And then here comes my invitation. That works every time. So I concentrate on the promotion that I can get. The people are talking about us, and you've got so many outlets now, the blogs and the video magazines and the everything. You want people to talk about you. And so it's all about somebody else talking about and like what you do. And so you can do it even at your beginning level. I'm not talking about going to Rolling Stone or even Music Connection at this point, but there's a whole lot of music blogs in your genre that may like your song, and feature it for the week or the month or whatever it is. And you can do a little at a time. You don't have to do 100 this week. You can Google it, look it up online, pick 5 this week, look it up, see how it works. Then, in a week or 2, submit it, and it will grow. It'll just start growing for you. So I'm all about promoting and trying to get people to talk about you, whether it's a fan or it's an industry person. An industry person will go further than a fan, because it'll attract fans to come to you. So if you don't know what to say on social media, let somebody else talk about you. Go after that publicity and promotion. That's the way we do it here.
Well, that makes sense. One of the questions that we always get is that people, like you were saying, say, "Well, I don't sound like anybody." And one of the things that's been happening is a lot of record labels are buying up old catalogs. I've been noticing that's really been big in the news. And one of the things that I've discovered is, again, knowing some of these industry people, is the reason they're buying up some of this stuff is because, you've heard that old adage, well, every song in the world's been written. That is almost true when it comes to the business of music, because there are songs that sound like whatever you do. I don't care how much you say, I don't sound like anybody. That's not true. If you feed it in the Shazam, odds are you will find something that sounds close to you, or you can follow that rabbit hole and eventually find something that's like, really, really close enough so that somebody would want to throw a lawsuit at you if you got famous and started making money with your song because it sounds like somebody else's. So,
Right.
That's unfortunately one of the things that's happening in this industry right now.
Right. Yeah. So, Dave, what did you show us?
He showed us the not found thing, but that's not the way you do it. What you do is you grab snippets of your songs and you play it into Shazam and then see what it finds that sounds similar to those snippets. It finds your song. Yeah, that's true. It'll find your song. But if you give it just pieces of your song, things will come up differently. And yeah, Dave has a lot of distribution, so that's one of the things.
No, good.
Nancy was asking if you do any promotion yourself there, Chris.
I promote everybody. Everything I do, I promote. And then we don't have a PR company. I'm it. I do everything. You know, I did have a band that was on the road, and we actually hired a promotion company, but it's because we were on the road. Because a PR person costs between $1,200 and $2,000 a month for 6 months. So you better have some stuff happening if you're going to pay that much money to get promoted and get interviews and all that kind of stuff. You know, sometimes you can take an independent person that'll pay less because they're only concentrating on internet radio, or they're concentrating on the college market, or they're concentrating on something like that. But you're still going to pay about $100 a week to do that stuff. And that's why I know you don't want to hear it, because you got so much to do on your plate. But you know what? Virtual assistants are all the rage. You know, there's a lot of people, some people, musicians like you, who have learned how to do some of this stuff. And so you can go to Fiverr, you can go to Upwork, you can go to Sound Better, and you can find somebody that says, I promote for you. You know, it costs this much a week, a month, an hour, or whatever it is. And then you can like talk to them and see what's going on, and you know, hire them and pay them an hourly rate sometimes, basically, to do something for you. And it's so worth it when, you know, with it, but they're going to take care of a specific area, which is fine, you know, especially if you're a singer-songwriter. There's a network of singer-songwriter, you know, that people love singer-songwriters. So that's where you want to, and they got to be they need to specialize in that. You know, if they do PR for EDM, might not be the person for you. But you want to ask them, what kind of artists have you worked in the past, and then check those artists out.
Yeah,
Be
I found
careful
that.
how much money you spend.
Yeah, I found a lot of pure word of mouth helps quite a bit, because, you know, just playing these virtual open mics, I now have fans in places I never would have imagined. You know, I've got fans in Mumbai Mumbai of all places. That's kind of cool. But
Yeah.
all over the world, so it's been kind of fun.
But what musicians have been doing with this, everything is virtual now, you know? And so not just performing virtual, but putting your name out because you do a little producing, or maybe you have a program that does mix and mastering. Maybe you're good at doing sheet music. There's a whole lot of people who now need sheet music because they're hiring somebody virtual online to do their special pieces. I had a girl up in Portland that we used. She charged $35 to do a song. We'd send her the song. We sent her the song. We sent her what key we want to be in. And a day later it was here. And I know there's a program for that. But you know what? It was worth $35. She has a whole business now, right? That's all she does. And so, and just different things. Like I had somebody, if you do your own graphic work, those kind of things, Canva is the way. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. Because I wanted to put my YouTube page up, mostly because I was talking to you guys, because I have a Facebook page and I have a website and all that kind of stuff. So I've been doing Facebook Lives since November every single week. So I took a couple of those, but I wanted to edit it down a little bit. So I used the script program, right? But on Canva, I found out that I could do my own YouTube banner. I could do it, me, by myself. And also they showed me how to do a thumbnail for my videos. And, you know, I mean, they look okay, but hey, I did it myself. I can go back and do bells and whistles and stuff like that, but I wanted it up fast. You know, I wanted to make sure. And now that again, that YouTube for me is not going to have everything on it. It's only going to have things that I think are the most important things that DIY musicians want to see. And then after I do my Zoom events with the industry people, if they approve, you know, that I can put that up on YouTube. But I'm going to make sure that they see it. We edit it. and some people may not want me to put it up there. So I'm okay, I really, because I used to try to pay people, but we're not doing any paid events anymore. So they're coming on for the hell of it, and you can get some pretty big people to just come and talk, right? And you're going, this guy works for Universal. He's going to come and talk for free, And so if they don't want it up on YouTube or whatever, then I won't put it there. But most of them are pretty cool at that. They're like, yeah, go ahead. I don't care, and stuff like that.
Yeah, because
So,
it is all about promotion too, so that's good.
yeah, but there's all kinds of stuff that I haven't jumped into on Canva on how you can do your cool things with your posts on Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. You could do your CD covers and all this stuff, and I was like, God, this is easy. If I can do it, you can do it. And if you get good at it, I found somebody who did good at it. They went on Fiverr, and now you can hire them at $15 an hour. I'll look at your project and give you, what you want and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people are also doing video editing because you got to have a video now.
Yep.
So there's lots of programs out there.
Okay, well, it's 9 o'clock here on the West Coast. I know John Pfeiffer and also
Getting tired.
John Corbell. Yeah, you guys have been here for a long time. Thank you so much. It's very late where you're at. Chris, you are a wealth of information. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Once again, for those of you that missed it, again, go to the chat because her contact information, everything else is there. We do put her Friday things up, links up on our YouTube page or on our Facebook page. I put up on mine as well. So make sure that you see those, check it out. Contact her if you have any other questions. She's always really good about that. And we have our showcase, let's see, coming up pretty soon. Steve, what's the next showcase?
2 weeks.
It's in 2 weeks. You can unmute, Steve. Steve, unmute. There you go.
Yeah, Wednesday the 21st, 2 weeks from
Wednesday.
tonight. Yeah.
Okay, it's 2 weeks. So Wednesday 21st, make sure you put that in your calendars, and we'd love to have you play music. I know Chris has come by and lurked a couple of times too. Thank you very much. She's heard some good stuff.
Yeah.
And you never know what happens. I was doing an open mic, actually on Tuesday, and somebody that was there, or not, that was Monday, Monday, John Pfeiffer had mentioned that there's another thing that goes around, and somebody was there that does a virtual showcase. He picks like 3 artists from different places and puts them up and lets them do full, 5-10 song sets and things like that. So it's like, wow. And I was chosen. It's like, wow, that was wild. He only heard me once, but he liked the silly song that in fact, I didn't even do a song, which is even funny. I just talked. But he liked my attitude. And he says, yeah. And he checked out my YouTube page. Said, I like your songs. Please come play my thing. It's like, all right.
Remember when you're pitching a song, if you're pitching one song, pitch your best song, not your recent song. Because pitch the one that everybody listens to. Because I had people that were like, oh, this is my baby. I'm like, but that's not your best song. You know your best song. You need to pitch the one that everybody likes.
Yep. Okay, are there any other last questions anybody has before we go? If not, then I'm going to allow everybody to unmute yourself. And if you want to unmute yourself and say thank you very much and all that adios and good stuff, that'll be
Thank
fine.
you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you
Great,
very
Chris.
much.
And,
Awesome, Chris.
And thanks, Jimmy. And
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks,
very
Chris.
much.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm glad you guys had it.
you.
And we'll
Thank
see you
you.
guys
Yes,
on the 21st.
thank you so much. And Jimmy, I hope to see you soon, buddy.
Absolutely, man. Come back to LA real soon, man.
Okay.
All right, take care, guys.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Sammy.
Good night, all.
See you on the
All right.
21st. Yeah.
Take care.
Night.
Bye, Dave.
Bye.